You're listening to the Fezcast, the Saracens fans podcast, bringing you the independent and unhinged views of the voices in our heads, as well as those of our special guests. To get in touch with us, find the Fezcast on social media and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube and more. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy this week's show.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to another edition of the Fezcast, moving swiftly towards Christmas. So a man as old as Santa Claus himself, Duncan, has joined us, and someone far younger and who was a star on the TV, or for a brief moment in time, Alex has joined us as well to discuss the weekend's rugby away at the Chiefs in Exeter for the women, and away in one of them pointless missions down into the Southern Hemisphere as part of the Champions Cup against the Sharks for the men. Well, good evening, Duncan. Good evening, Alex. And we never know, John might join us yet. We're waiting for him to join up. So if you hear another voice, that'll be John joining us. But other than that, how are you guys? All good?
I'm dying on my feet here, Jez, but hasn't stopped me before.
I'd go to the doctors if I were you, Duncan. And Alex, what was it like down in Exeter? Was it a bit breezy?
Yeah, it was good. It was a bit cold, but at least it wasn't raining like it was in South Africa.
Imagine that, going all the way down to the Southern Hemisphere and then getting absolutely frozen rain and whatever. And I'm sure we'll discuss that in the second half when we discuss the men. But first up, Alex, you were at Sandy Park on the weekend. Not a normal happy hunting ground for the women in recent years, has it been? But big win on the weekends, although I will say perhaps just an okay performance. What's your thoughts on the game in the first place, Alex?
I think we did well not to let the early score affect us. And I think especially, Zoe Harrison could have let that affect her game. But I think overall we did well to kind of keep ourselves in the game and then come out stronger in the second half, which then led to us winning the game.
Yeah, I think that second half when we scored points and points and points without reply was pretty amazing. My viewpoint of it was that we capitalised on Chiefs' mistakes far better than Chiefs capitalised on our mistakes. Do you think that's a fair comment?
It is. I mean, obviously, Exeter's first try came from a Zoe Harrison charge down of her kick by the player who was probably player of the match, even though she was on the wrong side, which is the Canadian captain who's called Alex.
Alex Tessier.
There you go. I knew I could rely on you. I mean, she was outstanding. Her charge down of the Zoe Harrison kick for the first try were very Maro Itoje-like. We're getting glimpses of just how entertaining an attacking force I think the women are going to be now that Kevin Rouet is in place as the attack coach. It's been the worst kept secret in the world. He's actually been there quite a few weeks. I don't know why there was a delay. But you can see that kind of loose attacking play that Canada plays so well coming into our team. It's not there yet, is it?
No.
But when it is, they're going to be fantastic.
That Tessier, she is a hell of a player. But I also think as well, Alex, that without Tessier in that Chiefs side, we would have won by an awful lot more. And I think mainly it came from our defence being pretty damn solid throughout the game, forcing Chiefs into making mistakes. And Chiefs' defence, equally good and forced us into mistakes, but it's just that when there was a turnover, and I think it was said in commentary that, and Emily Scarrett was very clear that both sides don't have a problem with coughing up ball because they know they're going to get a turnover pretty soon after, Alex. And that certainly seemed that way with the likes of Donna Rose, Georgia Evans and Marley Packard to the forefront at that Jackal situation, and May Campbell as well, of course.
There were definitely points when I thought Exeter was surely going to score and then they didn't because we were disciplined when we were defending. Yes, we did give away some penalties, but actually we knew we could win it back. So it wasn't a big deal. It meant we were pretty well disciplined throughout the whole thing because, okay, we've given away a penalty, but we don't need to keep being reckless and possibly risk giving away more because we know we can go win it back legally and then we can continue attacking.
Well, it's interesting because that follows on to the point that you made last week in reference to some players who get penalised more often than others, Alex. And one of those players, mentioning no names, no patch or anything, wasn't on the pitch this weekend. The discipline did seem to improve a little bit, didn't it?
That's a response to last week and saying, actually, we need to be better at discipline because Alex are a good side. And although they didn't necessarily take the chances they had on the weekend, if we kept giving them more and more chances and possibly risked having one of our players yellow carded, actually they probably would have scored out of one of those and that would have made the game a lot tighter and possibly led to us losing. So actually our discipline was a lot better, and you could see that gave us more time on the ball and more lengthy spells of possession, which led to us winning.
They mentioned the normal candidates as player of the match, George Evans, who had an absolutely superb game. But I think it was one stage further in the pack. The second row of Rosie Gallagher, in particular, Lou McMillan, they were absolutely superb. And I don't know, Lou getting a try and everything, but she had an absolutely monster game. Great in the line out, great in the loose, great in that engine room, Duncan.
Just an integral part of the defence, weren't they? Keeping them out was the key.
We'll talk now about Kevin Rouet coming in. As you say, one of the world's worst kept secrets, other than Jack Morgan and Dowie Lake going to Gloucester and George Martin coming to us. And we'll discuss George in a little bit when we come to the men. But to be able to attack, you have to earn the right. And you have to earn the right two ways. One, in defence, you have to make sure that you are solid, which we were. But then in attack, you can't just go. You can't just get the ball and go, we're going to fly it wide. You have to be able to floor in defenders. And I think that's what we did very well on the occasions when we needed to go, Alex. What we were able to do was play phase after phase after phase. And we got the pods going in. We managed to secure a ball. We gave Liv from a ride eventually that allowed her to go a bit more expressive, as it were. And it was on that groundwork that we were able to create chances which we exploited, which perhaps we didn't do in that first game against Gloucester Hartpury, but have developed since Kevin Rouet's come in.
I don't know whether it's because teams know we're going to come at them with playing very fast, with fast ball, but actually it's hard to counter that. And you can know that what's coming at you is going to be fast-paced attacking rugby, but it's hard for teams to stop that. And actually, once we get that right, and once we start not making so many handling errors and things like that, actually, that's going to be incredibly hard to stop. Just making sure that, we draw in defenders at the ruck, but then we can get the ball away quickly. And then that allows us to break the line and score more tries.
Now, the one thing I do want to say, Duncan, I'm going to bring you in on this. Another player who needs mentioning here, when we talk about defence, is Lottie Sharp on the wing, who chased back. I mean, the back three for Exeter Chiefs is very much vaunted as having an awful lot of pace. And there was that kick through, and who was chasing it? And Lottie, I mean, she found pace from somewhere. I don't know. I mean, she'd obviously had her third week at Big Sat morning, Duncan, hadn't she?
That was fantastic. Absolutely amazing, because she got ahead of that player, got down and rescued the ball. Going forward, she looked good as well. Except one point I'd make about our attack is that we're flinging it around, but we're flinging it around in one direction at the moment, so it eventually gets out to the wing moderately quickly, who then has to cut into a few defenders there. And both the wings are not getting it in a position where they've got a bit of space. And I think that's the one area when we can play it loose but change the direction, I think we'll be a lot better, as well as improve the handling errors, as Alex said.
It's something that Chris Ashton used to do a lot, and where he goes looking for, we used to go, we're looking for work. And I think Alicia Corrigan in particular went looking for work, and she was happy to be that player who would come in at pace, beat the defenders, and then create space elsewhere. Now, whether we had the pace then to exploit that outside is a question. And I think Sophie Bridger was a little bit, perhaps not quite on the pace, coming back from injury, whatever, Alex. But that was definitely a game plan, wasn't it? Lottie and Alicia coming in, looking for work, coming in narrow, picking up off the short ball, then create space outside.
Yeah, it's almost like the coach has said to them, you go where you can see the space, and then actually players like Sophie Bridger and Sydney Gregson will fill in the outside so that we can get you on the ball quicker. And then I do wonder whether the game hadn't changed a bit with Jess being out and Gemma Jo Lincoln having to come in. But actually, she did really well to kind of hold her own. She looked confident, made tackles when we needed her to. And actually, I think it worked really well having Alicia and Lottie in the wings, because then they could cover the defence a bit when Gemma Jo Lincoln doesn't have that kind of experience to be able to see where Exeter were going.
Vinca and Gemma Jo had an outstanding game as well. You've got Jess Breach there, who is, well, one of the top 15s in the world, even though she doesn't play 15 there for her country. But, she's a phenomenal player. And Gemma Jo to come in and you not be worried about it, that's a sign of a good young player, isn't it, Duncan?
Yeah, I always said Jess Breach was feeling poorly. Well, if I can do this podcast feeling poorly, can't she play a game of rugby feeling poorly? It's just as difficult, isn't it? And maybe, I don't know whether that happened to Poppy Cleal as well. It's a fair excuse. I don't know whether Jess Breach got a little bit of slight World Cup hangover. I think she'll get over it. But, was she training, as Alex said, on the wing for the World Cup, and now it's a little bit after the Lord Mayor's show? Maybe a little bit of a break will do her good.
Maybe so. Now, the important thing, though, Alex, is that after this weekend, Saracens women are top of the league, aren't they? And, okay, that's because Gloucester Hartbury have had a week off, but we are top of the league, which means we are putting pressure on Gloucester Hartbury. And good a team as Gloucester Hartbury are, we know they're a great side and everything like that. We need to be able to put pressure on them to keep this season alive, those top two sides, don't we, Alex?
Denying Exeter any bonus points is really important with that, because they are in third and actually they could be putting pressure on the top teams. They seem like the best position to do that at the moment. But actually going top, knowing that we could go into this extended Christmas break top of the table, puts us in a really good position to then go, this is where we're at. This is what we need to do in the second half of the season. We've got Gloucester Hartbury at home, so there's the opportunity to beat them and to take points off them. And then actually, it doesn't matter whether you come first or second in the table. Yes, it's supposedly easier semi-final, but actually with how the rest of the league looks, you don't know who's going to finish third or fourth. So as long as we finish in the top two, we give us the best shots to get into the final.
When is our next game, Alex? You'll know this off the top of your head. I haven't got my fixtures in front of me, but how long do the women have off now?
Well, we've got Sail Away this weekend,
right,
which will be interesting, and we should win that. But then it's not until February that we play our next game, because the PWR starts on the last weekend of January, but we've got our bye week. So it just means it's an extra long break for the players, and then, back in February for the second half of the league.
And do you know when the Gloucester game is?
I don't.
Emily Scarrett was saying that she thought we actually did ourselves a favour by getting completely stuffed by Gloucester on the first game, because it just put a rocket up us. And she's right. Since then, we've been pretty much, not perfect, but pretty bloody good, if not brilliant, in most of the games. And now everybody's looking forward to that return tie against Gloucester to see how far apart we are, if at all.
After a long break, you never know what might happen. I mean, Alex, put yourself in Alex Osprey's shoes. So what do you say to the girls after this weekend for Christmas? I mean, obviously, they're in a good position that they can go off and fill themselves full of turkey and everything and not worry about having to get in the training ground on the box day or anything daft like probably the men will have to do. But, I mean, what do you say to the girls? Go and have a couple of weeks holiday somewhere in the sun or something, perhaps?
Yeah, I think you've got to give them a break because the season's so packed. And actually, because our bye week for the first half of the season's in the end of January, they haven't really had a break since coming back from the World Cup. So actually, you give them a couple of break and then say, in January, we hit this like it's pre-season. And we get our conditioning up. We get ourselves fitter. We fix the simple errors that we're making. So actually, by the time we start the second half of the league, we're not making so many handling errors. We're faster and stronger, and we can go and show and completely dominate teams. So actually, we put ourselves in a really good position come June.
If we've got a bye weekend, the last thing you perhaps want to do is to go up against teams who have been a bit battle-hardened the week before and not be battle-hardened ourselves. I mean, would it be beyond the wit and reason of anybody at the club to think about going to one of the French clubs perhaps and saying, you fancy popping over for a warm-up game before our league season starts, Duncan?
Sounds like a decent idea. I'm sure that they'll have something in mind. Maybe they could even play a men's team of some description. You never know. 15th of March, by the way, is the Gloucester game, so that's definitely one for the diary.
Well, there you go, Duncan. Perhaps we can put together a side. You could play a fullback against Jess Breach and see whether she's listened to you diminishing her illness as opposed to your man flu.
Well, even though it wouldn't be easy, having someone of Jess Breach's size coming running towards me, actually, I wouldn't get near her anyway, so I wouldn't be in danger. I wouldn't fancy Poppy Cleal.
No, I'd have a quiet word with Poppy and make sure she did run straight out the mate. So there we go. I think we've covered off the women's game there, and I say well done to them. And let's look forward to a good win at Sale, hopefully on the weekend, and then they can have a good Christmas break off. After the break, we'll be back and we'll discuss the men down in South Africa playing against the Sharks.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Hello, this is Akina Gondwe of Saracens Women, and you're listening to the Fezcast, and we are both proudly sponsored by the Saracens Supporters Association. For a £10 annual subscription to the SSA, you'll get the chance to buy tickets for away matches, receive a regular newsletter, and an exclusive SSA badge. They also arrange pre-match gatherings and player-coach events. As well as sponsoring both me and the Fezcast, they also sponsor Louis Johnson from the men's team and the Saracens Foundation Track Club. Not bad for 10 quid. You can join up at membermojo.co.uk/SSA. Enjoy the rest of this edition of the Fezcast, and I look forward to seeing you at StoneX. Come on, you Sarries.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, welcome back to our next part of this week's Fezcast. And yeah, I'm going to say this straight off. I'm going to have me rant. I don't like the idea that South African clubs are in the Champions Cup. All it's done is help South Africa win the last 2 World Cups. And it's a pointless exercise sending a team all the way down to South Africa on a 12-hour flight for a 12-hour flight back. A few people have been online or whatever have been moaning, Duncan, about the fact that we put on paper a weakened side out. And without going into the results or anything like that, they had to, didn't they? If we got a bonus point, which we did, that's a good result down there. And we've rested some players up for a very important on Saturday at the Stone.
It's a shame that it is so difficult for the South African teams to compete in this competition. And it is. I mean, witness the weakened team that Saints were up against. Now, Saints are a really good side, but they're not 60 points better than the Bulls or whatever the score was. And similarly, as you say, it's difficult for us to go down there. So I don't think it works. And it really doesn't work when you get to the knockout stages because the South African teams just can't do it. In terms of the team we put out, I'm actually rather glad that we put out a moderately young team and the likes of Ollie Hartley and Sam Spink and what have you getting a run. There was even the appearance of something that I said last week didn't exist, which was a young loosehead.
Yeah.
Coming through our academy, and Alex O'Driscoll came on and proved once again that I don't know what I'm talking about. So it's good to see him. It was great experience for many of the team. And yes, the bonus point was great. And it was both encouraging and frustrating that we didn't get more.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of if-onlys about it, wasn't there? If only Andy Onyema-Christie hadn't lost his head just before half-time. If only the French referee who was looking at the TMO a load couldn't see what was in front of his face, that the pass was forward. If only this and if only that. If only Fergus Burke had put all his conversions over, we would have had a 5-point win.
Let's look at some of the 3-word reviews we've got. Well, there weren't many, which I think is probably because not many people were able to watch it on Prem Sports. And thank you, Duncan, for our little dodgy deal there, so I could watch it at the same time as watch the women. But Gareth Baxter, every point matters, and he's absolutely right. You know, we've got a bonus point out of that. I'm going to accept that as a pretty good return. I'm going to have a bit of a moan at our fan base. Rue Cayford said more composure needed, and yeah, he is right. There was more composure needed. But let's look at the facts here. Cyclisi and Bongo Mbopi, 181 international caps between them, which is only 40 less than what we had in total on our team. And I think we had 6 players with no international experience whatsoever in integral positions. And then Fergus Burke's got 2 Scotland caps. You know, the difference between the experience that they play. I mean, Cyclisi is 100 caps for South Africa. He's won 2 World Cups. So's Bongo Mbopi. So's Mbippi. so much quality in that Shark side. That Shark side should be disappointed by not putting more points on us. Their problem was they had one attack weapon, that was Andre Esterhausen. And actually, as you've mentioned, Ollie Hartley and Sam Spink, I'll pick them up. They've got the potential over the next decade to be like Walter Little and Frank Bunce. For those of us old enough, Alex, to remember that, playing for New Zealand, they were a brick wall in defence and battering rams in attack. And both Sam and Ollie had big games, didn't they, Alex?
And I've only seen highlights of the game, but actually, we did seem to put up a decent fight. And actually, okay, we lost, but you could have expected us to lose by a lot more than what we did. So actually, to say we lost by so little in South Africa with a team that's not our first side, actually, there's definitely positives you can take away from that.
The thing that comes out from a lot of the people online is that people were saying things like, the Sarries of old would have won that game. And yeah, the Sarries of old would have won that game. But this isn't the Sarries of old. So this is the Sarries of like 2011, 2012, when Owen Farrell, Jamie George Cruz were breaking through and learning at this stage. They're not going to be the Saracens of 2017 who won everything in front of them.
The Sarries of old had a budget that rivaled the French teams for one reason or another, and won't go into that. So there was that advantage. When you had Will Skelton on the bench, it was a bit of a different setup. And secondly, we are still in a transition period. Everybody who heard Mike Hindford last week will know that we're still in a period where we have to give young players a chance. Otherwise, we won't get the benefit of producing them. And we're still in that period, and yet we still could have won.
Yeah, and I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? It does feel like a bit of a missed opportunity that at the start of the game, you would have taken that losing bonus point. But given the way that the game went and given what happened in the game, you do see it as a bit of a missed opportunity. But as you said before, Duncan, it's buts and maybes. What I do want to talk about, though, is the players who impressed me. And by and large, it wasn't the senior players who impressed. And you mentioned Andy Onyama Christie's rush of blood, which I think was a bit of a nothing penalty, to be perfectly honest with you, but then was compounded, as you said, the referee being a bit cockeyed and not seeing what was clearly a forward pass to everybody else. But let's look at the players who were really good, Alex. And number one, we've been discussing this week after week after week, and we've been talking about Ivan Van Zyl and how he's been performing and everything like that. Charlie Bracken, for me, has stuck his hand in the air in this game in particular, but in previous weeks. And it can't be long, if not right now, that he becomes the starting nine, Alex.
It almost might be what Ivan Van Zyl needs, is to say, you're not the starting nine anymore, Charlie Bracken's our starting nine. And actually just see if that kind of gives him that extra motivation. Because actually, if he's not performing great each week, but he's still getting that starting place, to say, okay, you don't need to perform great, but we'll still let you start, despite the fact we have good players coming through. So, and actually give Charlie Bracken a chance, let him start against top teams and see what he can do and see how he holds up to the pressure, because actually that's what's going to help him grow and help him get even better as a player.
I think the thing, Duncan, about Charlie is quite simply that if you look at some of the key things that Saracens do, in this game, his box kicking was on the money, which Ivan's hasn't been in recent weeks. His speed of delivery, I mean, it does help if you've got Tom Willis making yards and yards in front of you and getting forward ball like he does, but his speed of delivery was rapid and accurate. And then his defence was absolutely top-notch. And so in the aspects of the game where you expect Saracens to be performing, the best scrum half at doing those at the moment is Charlie Bracken.
I agree with all of that. I don't think he'll necessarily be the starting scrum half because it's normal. Like hooker, scrum half is one of those positions that they tend to play either just over or just under a half, don't they? And sometimes you do have your best scrum half come on in the second half. The interesting question for me, which is compounded by the fact that one of the strong rumours doing the rounds is that Thomas Williams is coming, is to what extent is it, like in this game, Charlie Bracken and Gareth Simpson? He's gone.
Sorry, I hope I'm back. Can you hear me again?
We can, yes. Very nice to have you back, if I may say so, Jez.
Lovely.
Just to repeat what I was saying, the question for me is to what extent Gareth Simpson and Charlie Bracken are going to be the pair, given that, if Thomas Williams comes, who's out the door?
Now, obviously, through injuries or whatever, Teemu Shagan picking up another knock that Gareth ended up playing on the wing and did very well, actually, on the wing when he did come on. There was one booming kick he put in to clear, which was absolutely outstanding. We mentioned Sam Spink, we mentioned Ollie Hartley. I think they did great. The other player, Alex, I really want to mention, and I've been talking about him a lot, and it seems to be ever since I did my interview with him, so I'm going to take a bit of the old credit for this one, but Harry Wilson really is performing well, isn't he? And he's giving Mark McCall and the selection team a bit of a headache when Maro Itoje returns as to who do they drop, because Harry's really stuck his hand in the air, hasn't he, the last few weeks?
It's very possible they'll say, actually, we want you to start on the bench, and then you bring Harry Wilson on at 60 minutes, and you keep up the intensity and rush. But actually, he's making it very hard for Mark McCall to say, I want to put you on the bench because of how well he's playing. So it'll definitely be interesting, actually, where do you put players once we've got people like Maro back? But I think, he's playing really well, and that's the kind of tough decisions we want to have. We don't want to be saying we don't know who we've got as our third choice lock on the bench or whatever. You want to be saying this is who we've got, and actually we've got players who are on the bench and even not playing that could start because they're just as good.
What is happening at the moment is that there is a rotation. We've got more than 23 really good players, and Mark McCall is definitely playing them in different games. I mean, you got Olamide Siddiqui replaced Nathan Mikhailov and came in, and everybody's getting a run. That usually changes when April comes, and we tend to play the run in the business end of the season with our best team. But for the time being, we're going to see a lot of rotation.
We're talking about second rows here, and one of the three-word reviews is from regular contributor Ben Hoaxma. He said, line out needs work. And again, Theo had one of those games, didn't he, where it wasn't as bad as previous weeks.
No.
He did it. But I think also he's missing Maro Itoje being your main line-out threat. But it's interesting that obviously we've highlighted second row as a position to strengthen, regardless of what we got there with Hugh Tizard, with Theo McFarland, with Maro Itoje, with Harry Wilson, and we're bringing in George Martin from Leicester, which is a really good... Number one, Alex, I didn't realise he was only 24. I thought he was much older than that. He seems to have been around the park for a long, long time. Yes, he's had a bit of a shoulder injury, and people at Leicester are saying that perhaps he is a bit injury prone, but a fit George Martin can only be an exceptionally good addition to the Saracens team. And also, for those of us who remember the Beatles, we got plenty of Beatles puns for next season lined up, haven't we? So, but I mean, what do you think, Alex? I mean, George Martin, a good signing? Is he going to help the line out?
Hopefully he will. I think although we're trying to build, young players and build from within, actually, we do need to bring in experienced players to help that, especially if some of the rumours about certain people leaving are true. But actually, it only makes people like Harry Wilson probably more competitive for their spot, and therefore they know this season they've got to play well. They've got to put their hand up to have a chance of getting in the 23 next season and actually being regular part of the team. So it makes players probably this season better because they know that if next season it's going to be more competitive for their spot, they've got to showcase what they can do this season.
And some players will step up to it. Hugh Tizard's another one who has really stepped up to that challenge this season. And again, it comes back to your comment, Duncan, and from your excellent interview with Mike Einhardt last week about this being a transitional period as we're growing, developing. If we win stuff this season, it's going to be a bonus, but this is definitely season 3, season 4, season 5 to where we're going to see this all come to fruition, isn't it?
Yeah, we're starting to see the fruits of it, aren't we? As the ones we don't know, like Alex O'Driscoll, get their minutes, and we start to see the potential. If I might just say about Theo Dan, it was James Hadfield who missed the key line out at the end, or it wasn't necessarily his fault. But I was listening to a stream with the South African commentary, and they had players like Joel Stransky and what have you, who, despite the fact that he has played for England, Theo Dan, They hadn't really seen him before. They were raving about him.
Yeah, I mean, going forward in attack, and, where Tom Willis makes yards, he makes yards as well.
Yeah.
He does have a tendency sometimes to make the first 10 yards sideways before he goes forward. But he is a wrecking ball, and, he got a good try as well on the weekend. So he could end up being an open side
Yeah.
if the hook in doesn't
No, that's right.
go right. But and he's got that versatility about him, hasn't he?
Oh, definitely. It seems to be that, a lot of hookers could play 6 or 7, couldn't they? The one thing I'll say as a slightly worrying point now, and it might have been the rain, but it also happens against Bath. What the Sharks did to us towards the back end of the game, when we seemed to have the majority of the possession and we were pushing for a try, is they lined up a defence right across the pitch and right in our faces.
Offside, you mean?
No, not offside. I think they were pressing in a football parlance. And we weren't very good at dealing with it, as we weren't. Bath did the same, and we weren't very good at dealing with it against them. And Fergus Burke, when he tried to do a crossfield kick to Alex Lazowski, it was a long way from being the sort of thing that Owen Farrell would put in. When the forwards were receiving the ball, they were standing still, which took us back a little bit to the bad old days of our attacks from the previous 2 seasons. Now, that might have been in such horrendous rain that it was dangerous to run onto a pass because the ball was a ball of soap. I don't know. I hope we're not slipping back into those bad habits of being static when we receive the ball.
Yes, the weather will have played a huge part in the game plan that we saw. Now, the last 3-word review looks forward to this coming weekend. And Josh Miller said, must beat Exeter. And I think that's a really important thing to say, Alex, in relation to the fact that we did send a team that didn't have Owen Farrell playing, didn't have Ivan Van Zyl playing, didn't have Maro Itoje playing, didn't start Ben Earl, etc., 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 had possibly the second choice centre partnership. No Nick Tompkins, for argument's sake, no Noah Kalori. So if you rest those players, it's then imperative in a home match against Exeter, who are coming off of a similar defeat to us, that we do back up with a big performance and big victory on the weekend at StoneX.
That's the performance that happened last weekend, but actually we need to put out a strong team to say, this is who we are, this is what we're about, and actually this is what we're going to do in the Prem, and then we'll see where it goes in the Champions Cup later. But actually saying we're not slacking and we're not just going to keeping out teams where we're not putting out our best side, and where we have in the past couple of weeks we've rested some players, actually saying now they're going to come back in and we're going to see the impact that they have.
This weekend, we talked about fans having a sense of entitlement, perhaps even a sense of arrogance about where they think we are, which is not necessarily supported by reality. But Exeter Chiefs, who Sam keeps on saying will go down, he sees will end up last, they've had a really good season. They seem to have gone 2 to 3 years in their cycle of building, and well done Rob Baxter for turning that around for them. We don't like Exeter Chiefs. We certainly don't like the owner. Exeter Chiefs is a game that we really do want to see the boys really performing, don't we?
We're 6th, so nearer to the bottom than the top. And Exeter is 2nd, and Exeter in the position that, if we can't come top, the position we want. But they're only 4 points ahead of us. I agree with you. It's a must-win.
Yeah, a must-win with bonus point, and potentially making sure that Exeter don't score bonus points. How easy that will be, I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how it goes, won't it, Duncan?
No, it will. I mean, you've got Exeter 2nd, Northampton 3rd, and we've seen both teams are really bloody good. And we don't want to get into a position where they're starting to draw away from us, because we want to have a home semi. And so we need to win it to get there. We've got Gloucester afterwards, I think. And
Gloucester are playing some very good rugby at the moment as well. They seem to have turned a corner for them, certainly in the league.
Apart from Newcastle, it's the old cliche, isn't it? There's no easy games. We even lose to the team that should be an easy win, being Quins. But that's more to do with Quins' motivation than our ability, isn't it?
It is. Shall we end it there and look forward to Gloucester on the weekend? I'm hoping that next week we're going to be going out on Christmas Eve. I hope to have a special Christmas interview for you all. I'm just waiting on Ollie to confirm that up. But normally, if I mention that Ollie's sorting something out for me on the Fezcast, he does normally get it sorted. So let's hope that one works out. So hopefully, at the end of this week, I'll be speaking to somebody. It will be a good interview next week. But you will be back next week to review Exeter Chiefs and sail away, and then look forward to, as you say, Duncan, as part of your opening up Christmas on Christmas Eve. And I don't know who'll have the Santa hat on and all the bonhomie and the cheer and everything, but it'll be one of us, won't it, anyway?
It will be one of us, yeah, that's for sure.
Well, thank you, Alex. Thank you, Duncan. And thank you, everybody, for listening in. As I say, we'll be back next.
He's off again.
Yeah.
He's left us. A muttering Jez. I think he's trying to say we'll see you all next week. He is going on a long time without any of us hearing him. Oh, you're back.
Next week.
We lost you again. Yeah, he's saying hopefully you got all that, but we didn't. But we'll see you all next week. Bye.
This is the Fezcast.